of the biggest challenges I see with founders is that they're really smart. They can do a lot of things. Almost none of them are seasoned salespeople. And they probably started sales themselves as a founder. Like, you got to sell it. You have to be charismatic and have this origin story and charisma. That can get you from 0 to 1 or 2 million in revenue. That's not going to get you to 10 or 20 million in revenue. And the way every other human being on the planet sells your business and product or service is going to be different than the way you as the founder do.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where winter's shorter days mean more time to binge ideas by the fire and call it strategic planning. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Today, we're talking about the hottest trend in business leadership since someone decided standing desks were cool. Fractional executives. Think of them as the Swiss Army knives of leadership, highly skilled, incredibly versatile, and available without the full time price tag. And let's be real, what SaaS CEO doesn't love the idea of getting executive level impact without shelling out the salary for an executive level person? This week, we're focusing on fractional sales leaders because building a sales engine is no joke, even if we've got a few dad jokes to sprinkle in. Why did the salesperson bring a ladder? Because he wanted to reach high level prospects. Whether you're gearing up to scale or just need some serious sales strategy, a fractional sales leader might be the secret weapon you didn't know your business was missing. Now, here's the question. If you could bring in a proven sales expert without the full time strings attached, what kind of momentum could your company achieve? Stick around because we're about to find out. And spoiler alert, it's a lot more productive than your sales team's fantasy football league. Our founder on Tuesday was John Gillum, founder of Originality.ai. He shared game changing strategies for thriving in a world of AI generated content. We explored how to leverage AI responsibly, maintain content originality, and why quality always beats quantity, even in today's saturated market. You can also put your content team to the test. If you want to future proof your content strategy, don't miss this episode. And our expert guest last week, Thanksgiving super special, was Elliot Connie, psychotherapist and solution focused therapy expert, who shared how intentional gratitude, reframing challenges, and reflecting on resilience can transform your life and your leadership. If you've ever felt stuck or unsure how to tackle obstacles, this episode offers powerful strategies to shift your perspective and unlock growth. Especially helpful to think about as we are rocketing into the new year. It's only just 3 weeks away. That's coming up so fast. My guest today is Mike Malloy, founder of Malloy Industries Consulting Group, where he helps growth stage companies scale with the expertise of fractional executives. With 14 plus years experience as a consultant, CEO, professor, and mentor, Mike blends technical savvy with emotional intelligence to deliver transformative solutions. Get ready for a fascinating discussion on the future of fractional talent, scaling sales engines, and cultivating meaningful business connections. Welcome, Mike Malloy. Hey, Mike, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Fractional talent is gaining massive traction, especially in growth stage companies. What are some of the main advantages for hiring fractional executives over full-time employees, especially at that stage?
Great question. And there's a lot of them because I think the old way of doing business and building your team where you're just hiring full-time employees, it takes a lot of time. It can take 3 to 6 months to come up with a job description, share it with your network, source candidates, interview, vet them, and eventually hire on board. And then you have to train them as well. I think one of the big benefits for fractional executives is the speed at which they can come in and join your team. And you're not hiring a mid-level manager who needs to be trained on how do I run a marketing campaign or build a marketing
Yeah.
strategy. You're hiring an expert with decades of experience who's actually going to train you and your company how to build a better marketing strategy and actually execute it, or how to fix the issues with your sales pipeline and identify where the friction points are or the holes that people are falling out of the funnel. So bringing in those industry veterans is a real big game changer.
Very cool. How did you get into the fractional world? You were a Deloitte consultant, startup CEO, director of an incubator program. How did you end up
Yeah.
fractional?
Uh,
That's pretty cool.
So it's been a wild entrepreneurial ride, and I will acknowledge that there was a small global pandemic that may have played a role in this as
Yeah.
well. I lived in DC for more than a decade, and during COVID, my wife and I moved to the beach in Delaware. And when the
Nice.
incubator said, "Hey, Mike, COVID's winding down, time to come back to the office," I said, "Peace, I love you guys, but I don't think that 2.5 hour commute's going to work." And I started as a fractional executive myself, the summer of 2021, and was helping companies with sales, marketing, fundraising, and loved it, loved the work, and realized like, oh, I started my career 21 as a Deloitte consultant, flying out Monday morning, flying back Thursday on client sites. That's not the world in 2024 and the future. It's you can work from home. I do have pants on today, but they're typically optional. If you're a smart person who has a decade or more of experience, you've acquired some career capital, you can deploy that capital and use it to help companies in a variety of different industries, verticals, stages, locations. And what I love about it is it means you can be selective about the people you choose to work with, both as a company and as an individual fractional. Like, we only work with people we genuinely enjoy that align with our core values of being relentlessly generous and enthusiastically fun. Uh, by the way, Jeff, I got to ask you, do you know why the Scarecrow won the Nobel Prize?
Why is that?
Oh, because he was outstanding in his field.
Ah, so good. Yeah, dad jokes are a thing for you, right?
They're a core part of the personal brand as well as the professional brand. We started a dad joke a day newsletter about a year ago, and I have a 2.5-year-old chief cuteness officer who is learning from me at an early age to laugh as soon as he doesn't always know what the punchline means, but he knows to laugh, which is great. Until he gets to middle
That's
school.
exactly what you
Exactly.
want.
I have a phenomenal audience, and I got another one for you. Why did the chicken fall in the well?
Why is that?
Because the chicken couldn't see that.
These are ones that I will definitely have to tell my kids
It's good.
later on, and I'm sure other listeners will be doing the same things as well. So that would be backing up 30 seconds. All right, I got that one.
Nailed it. And the key is to
That's
celebrate the
great.
full spectrum from like face palm groan to, oh my God, that was hilarious. My goal is I want to tell my kids and my grandkids, great. Then I got a good one. So, uh,
That relatability is so good, especially in fractional roles, because you can walk into a company and really build rapport quickly and see what's going on. What types of companies, are really ideal for fractional roles?
yeah, great question. And it's not the back of a napkin. Hey, I got an idea. I'm going to go build this in my garage. Here's my $10,000 life savings. Can you make me a millionaire? That's probably not a good fit. We are primarily working with businesses that have at least $1 million in revenue and or funding, such that
Hmm.
if they're paying 10K a month, that's a budget line item. And we're leading that whole department, not a Hail Mary, I'm going all in. I need this to work in the next month. Because what the benefit of working with a fractional is that maybe it's 10K the first month, the first couple months, but then you want to ramp it up to 15K a month. You get more of their capacity. They're doing more work. And then maybe you have a slow season. You want to ramp it down to 5K for a couple months, or even say, hey, let's just hold off for a month. We'll come back as our cash flow evens out. That's a big benefit that you don't get with a full-time employee, where you got to make that payroll every 2 weeks. And sometimes as a CEO, you don't get paid, so you can make other people. And that's a stressful world that I have a little bit of experience in as well, and try to
Mm.
empathize and understand entrepreneurs. You hinted at, like, I had a sunglass company I ran for 6 years. Like, I learned there's for-profits, there's non-profits, and then there's no profits. And I went bankrupt at 30 and had to shut it down, have some real humbling conversations with 27 investors. And I was broke and had to move back in my parents' basement. That wasn't my vision of what my 30th birthday would be. But from that, I now, I think, understand even more the hardships that entrepreneurs go through and the stress of
Yeah.
what's keeping you up at night, what's your most expensive problems. And we try to bring in people who can help solve them and do it in a way such that it increases your confidence in the business. And entrepreneurs are usually wearing like all these different hats and have 17 hair on fire problems. Instead of trying to figure out how do I solve everything, the better question is who, not how. Such
Mm.
that who are the people on your team today or that you need on your team in the next few months, such that when a sales challenge comes up or an HR issue comes up, we have a few clients like we're their fractional HR department. You don't need a full-time chief people officer for $200,000 a year when you have 12 employees.
Right.
You do need a phone number that somebody can call if there's an HR thing, and that shouldn't be the CEO's phone number, just in case the CEO is involved with the HR, whatever the issue is.
Right.
And so we do a lot of like on-demand HR director work where you can call us if you need a new employee handbook, if you need to help onboard some new people, if you want to build out what is your hiring plan for the next year, and also what is the like tax filing when you hired your first person in Nebraska. And I don't know the details of that, but like we got people who can do the compliance back office things.
Sure.
That I was talking to a CEO a couple weeks ago. He's got 25 employees. He still processes payroll every other Friday. I was like, dude,
Wow.
you're doing millions of dollars. Like, you can pay somebody to do that. That doesn't need to be still on your to-do list, and like, you can't go enjoy your weekend with your family and kids until, oh yeah, I gotta make sure it gets paid.
Well, how should companies make that determination when to bring on a fractional executive versus making a full-time hire, particularly in roles like that, like HR, marketing, sales? Some of those are really strategic. Do they work as well fractionally as they would with a full-time person?
Yeah, I think they definitely can work well fractionally. It depends partially on the culture of the organization and how open they are to remote work as a thing. So if a company is, hey, everybody's in the office, we're here 9 to 5 or 8 to 7, 5 days a week, that's probably not a good fit. However, most companies post COVID, whether they started before or after COVID, are remote or at least hybrid. And so in that case, it's a matter of communication and communication cadences and getting into a good rhythm. If you're thinking about hiring somebody to solve a specific set of problems, you have a scope of work, you have a position description with the roles and responsibilities. Ask yourself, like, how many hours, if somebody was really good at this, like, how many hours would this actually take in a week? And if you bring in a mid-level manager, it may take them 40, 50, 60 hours. If they don't have playbooks and proven methodologies, they haven't solved this before. They may not also be the best leader or manager of other humans. If you do have some
Yeah.
coordinator, analyst level resources, what I found works well is, yeah, you might have a handful of, let's say, $50,000 a year employees. Instead of bringing in one $150,000 to $250,000 executive, like, why don't you bring in a fractional for 8 to 10K a month? They can oversee them. And sometimes there's even like third party vendors, especially in the marketing and sales function, where like you may need to manage some people that are doing things. This executive leader knows how to lead. They know how to communicate effectively, how to run meetings. One of the things that we have all of our fractionals do, and we learned this, we didn't have it year one, but year four, the end of every week is a end of week report the Malloy way. And we share it with the
Mm.
client. We also share it with myself and our chief of staff. And it's, what do we do this week? What were the key meetings? What are we doing next week? What are the key meetings? Where am I stuck? Where do I need help from you, the client? I don't have access to this system. I need you to review this deliverable before we ship it. I need you to approve this budget, whatever. And then what are any upcoming scheduling constraints? Because the biggest issues happen when the client doesn't know what they're doing. And they're like,
Yeah.
Ma, the meatloaf, what is she doing? I have no idea. And so by proactively, glad you got that one, proactively communicating where we are, what we're doing next week, and where we're stuck. And hey, I'm going to take the Wednesday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving off. And December 13th is my kid's birthday, so I'm going to be off that day. Tell me, like, then I can just plan for it. The other important piece is a weekly recurring meeting. Typically, it's an hour with the CEO. And this is driven by the fractional executive. They set the agenda. Here are the updates on X, Y, or Z. And meetings are largely to decide. And if you break down the word decide, it means to cut off. Right.
Yeah.
So we're not going there to wax poetic. Like, yeah, maybe once in a while they're like, we're diverging, we're brainstorming. But for the most part, it's, here's a problem. Here are 3 recommended solutions that we can consider. I recommend option B. What do you think? What questions do you have for me? What do you want to do? And so in the next 5 minutes, like, we've made a decision. I can go execute that, and I'll report back next week, next month on, hey, how's it going as a result. There's also a lot of decisions that are 2-way doors versus 1-way doors. So like, I have a large Celtic cross on my back shoulder I got in Ireland in 2007. That was a 1-way door. That's not coming off. I committed to
Right.
that. But sometimes what color we print something on, or there's a lot of things that are 2-way doors. It's easy to change. If we go through it, we're like, oh, this
Sure.
isn't exactly what we wanted. Let's come back. So don't spend forever evaluating 2-way doors if it's pretty easy to change. If it's a 5-6 figure investment in a new software tech stack, like, oh, for the big shift, maybe let's spend a little bit of time. Let's talk to some other stakeholders in the company, maybe some other clients that have used them, to say, hey, is this worth the investment, before making that 1-way door commitment.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Really making sure what is the implication of the solution? Is it easy to change if we make the wrong one?
Yeah.
And those should be super fast decisions. But I like the cadence and having the meetings, and you've got those pretty well buttoned up, and what you're talking about, what the how the meetings flow.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll put in the chat for you, we can put in the show notes for the listeners, is we've got a series of meeting agenda templates that are do it yourself. They're all Google Docs in a folder that anybody can make a copy of. There's a direct report for like your one on ones, like how to run that meeting. We have a leadership team meeting. We have a weekly all staff meeting. We also have some sales meeting agendas in there, like the intro first coffee chat. Like they're basic meetings, but it's amazing how more productive they are when there's a structure. And like when you
Yes,
just run through, hey, what's your personal background? What are you working on now? Hey, what's my personal background? What am I working on now? Where's their Venn diagram? Who do you know that I should know? Who do I know that you should know? And the key is that meetings are typically structured like a diamond. They start at one point, they diverge on a series of topics, and then they converge back together with those decision points. And there's usually action items that come out of it. And the goal
yep,
of every single meeting is to get the next meeting. And so instead of having a 30-minute meeting, whether it's internal or external, and then being over time, like, oh, but we should keep talking, but I got to run to the next thing. No, dude, at the 25-minute mark, recap what the action items are. Hey, let's look at our calendar. How does next Tuesday at 2 work for you? Okay, doesn't.
yeah,
How about 3:30? You can save 7 emails back and forth. You prevent getting ghosted by sales leads, and you prevent stalling projects because I don't know when the next time is that I'm going to talk. And if it's internal, you should be able to look at other people's calendars too. Oh, we got to bring in Susie from
sure.
marketing and Joe from accounting. So let's see when they're available. That's a really effective use of the kind of bottom part of that diamond to make sure that you have a plan moving forward. And then whether it's the listener who is the note taker or a fractional executive or a junior staff meeting, get that follow up email sent before you go to bed. Human beings, our brains have a 12-hour half life, which means
I believe
yeah,
it.
you're probably going to remember this podcast until you go to sleep tonight. And then tomorrow you wake up, you might remember half of it. By the end of the day, a quarter of it. And it's just like quickly going down. So if there's an idea from this podcast that sticks with you, write it down, take an action, tell somebody about it. The goal of any story is that it leaves the room. That there are some ideas in this podcast that are worth sharing that you can share with your colleagues, your spouse. I always call it the like spouse test. Like when you're laying in bed that night, what's one thing that happened that you want to tell your significant other about? It may or may not be this podcast. It might be something else to do, but that's the stuff that bubbles up and matters. And as you think about your product and service and business, like how does it create a positive experience such that other people want to talk about it? To be remarkable means worth remarking about. This goes back
I like it.
to Seth Godin and like the purple cow. You're driving down a country road, you see a bunch of black and white cows. Holy cow, that's a purple cow. You're
Yeah.
going to talk about that. You're going to tell your friends, I saw a purple cow. How can you create that experience with your business? I'll give you another example. Last week, I went to the DC Startup and Tech Week, a bunch of events all week. I gave a presentation on how to reclaim your freedom and time by delegating and automating. I had a whole trade show booth. One of the things I did was I bought a pack of flashcards that are fractions. I'm holding them up. Jeff can see it here.
Okay.
And so people be like, oh, like Mike, what do you do? What's Malloy Industries? I'll be like, you see this? What's this? And they're like, a fraction. Yeah, I sell fractional executives. And then I give it to them, and it's noticeably larger than a typical business card, so it takes up some more space. I've
Yeah.
had so many people. I even had a woman email me, and she put 3/5 in the subject line. I was like, "Why does this say 3/5?" She got the 3/5 fraction, and like has hung
Oh,
on
that's
to it, and like
fantastic.
really connected with that. That was a little purple cow type thing that just makes you stand out and be a little different than competitors or other people in the market or at a networking event.
So good. I think that's brilliant, and it makes people remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's something that really stands out. It's probably something they're going to hold on to because it is bigger. It's not just a business card that you throw away.
exactly.
As founders, a lot of them lead sales efforts for a while, and then they start thinking about bringing in a sales team. Don't necessarily need a VP of sales and start hiring maybe salespeople or transitioning out of that the founder-led sales to really building a team. What are some of the really important steps they should take when moving to that model, whether it be full time or especially fractional?
Phenomenal question. And I think one of the biggest challenges I see with founders is that they're really smart. They can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Almost none of them are seasoned salespeople. And
Yep.
they probably started sales themselves as a founder. Like, you got to sell it. You have to be charismatic and have this origin story and charisma. that can get you from 0 to 1 or 2 million in revenue. That's not going to get you to
Yep.
10 or 20 million in revenue.
Exactly.
And the way every other human being on the planet sells your business is and product or service is going to be different than the way you as the founder do. And so
Yep.
building a scalable, repeatable sales process requires a different approach. And one of the first things that I recommend is like if you've brought on some SDRs or account executives, your company should be running a weekly sales pipeline meeting. Almost never should the CEO be the person leading that meeting. That's one place that
Mm.
we come in and add a lot of value with our fractional sales leaders. And generally speaking, like we don't have egos. I don't really care what the title is. Is it a chief revenue officer, VP of sales, director of sales, salesman, whatever you want to call it? It's a grown up in the sales room who's going to bring the rigor and structure and process for both tracking the metrics, measuring them, holding the salespeople accountable. Because there are 4 different types of deals in your pipeline. There's the real ones, there's the fantasy ones, there's the dead ones, and then there's the ones that are never going to happen. And the problem is they're all mixed in the funnel. You don't really know who's what,
They
where.
are.
And if your metrics for your salespeople are based on how many proposals did you send? Like I can send a bunch of proposals to people who don't want to receive them, but I can tell you I sent proposals,
Yeah.
versus what is the action taken by the future customer. And by the way, I love not calling them prospects or leads, but calling them future customers.
I like
You
that.
think about the emotional connection of like, how do you treat your customers? How would you treat a future customer? Like, how would you treat your future father or mother-in-law? Like, probably with some respect
Yeah.
and love. And the same is true, I think, for customers. And if it's a prospect, it's a little bit more, I'm prospecting that you're going to pay me a bunch of money, not I'm excited about all of the ways we can add value to your business, solve your problems, make your life better. Whole new approach. And so as you think about running that pipeline meeting, instead of starting at the top of the funnel, how many new leads do we have? How many contacts do we get at the top? Start at the very bottom. How many legal contracts have you sent? How many proposals have you sent? And talk through the deals such that each rep, whether they're an SDR or account exec or you as the CEO, the other thing that I love, and we do this in my business, when we run our weekly sales pipeline meeting, I don't run it. I'm an account exec. My chief of staff, Tina, is the one running the meeting. She's holding me and Brian and Kyle accountable to the commitments from last week to talk through where the deals
I like
are.
that.
And it's also a great way as a CEO and as a leader to be humble in front of your team and show them that you're not above the law. And like, why do I have to follow all these SOPs and like document stuff in HubSpot if you're not doing it? Well, you should be doing it too, or at least have a VA or somebody help you get it where it should be. But then show up to the meeting, be accountable. Don't make excuses if you don't want them making excuses, because they're going to model your behavior. And so if you can model owning it when you fail, but also celebrating when you do great, and don't just celebrate the man, I sell all the things. Be like, hey, shout out to
Yep.
Ola. She really helped with the follow up for that. And Tina was instrumental on this deal and putting the contract together. And I'm so pumped that Laura's working on this other client. Like, praise publicly, reprimand privately in a way such that anything good that happens is everybody else's fault, and anything bad that happens is your fault. And welcome to being CEO.
Yeah.
That's what you unfortunately signed up for. And you'd be amazed the lengths people will go to war with you or to march in the streets or whatever it is when they know you've got your back. And that when
Yep.
stuff hits the fan, you're going to take it, even if it might have been their fault. You're not going to throw them under the bus, whether or not they're in the room. Goes a long way. And so just going back to effectively running that pipeline meeting, you want to work through the deal starting bottom up with each of the executives there. There should also be, we talked about it in any meeting, there's like action items at the end, like at the end of your sales pipeline meeting. What are your commits to do for next week? Are there a certain number of meetings you're going to have that you already have, that you're a certain number of emails you're going to send, calls you're going to make, new things you're going to add here? How are you going to increase the velocity through the pipeline? Speed kills all deals. And so how can you be politely persistent? Who did you send 4 emails to, but they haven't responded? Maybe send them a LinkedIn message. Did you get their cell? Well, here's a pro tip for everybody. In the first meeting with a future customer, ask for their cell phone number and do it in a way that's just, hey, Jeff, love the call today. Look forward to following up. I'm a decent at email, but I'm really good at text. What's your cell? If you don't mind, I'd love to just shoot you a quick text. And if you think of anything, I'm here to help you, not, hey, I'm going to badger you with texts and sell you stuff all the time.
Yep.
But what you then do, as soon as it ends, add him as a contact in your phone, send him a text, and I just say, hi, it's Mike, smiley face emoji with sunglasses, because I'm always rocking sunglasses. And now we've opened that communication channel. And so if we have a meeting in 2 weeks, that morning, it's at 2:00, I can text you that morning, hey, Jeff, looking forward to our call at 2:00. Does that still work for you? And you may say no, And if that's fine, we can then text and reschedule. People respond to 95% of their text messages within 3 minutes. People respond to emails within 3 weeks, maybe. And things can just fall and I read it and now it's marked as read and it fell down the inbox and sorry, dude. But the
Yeah.
opening that text thread I have found is a super effective way to build a rapport. And I also tell dad jokes and share funny photos of me and my kid. Like it's a rapport engine that can be leveraged as needed. Yeah, I had a sales meeting today with a woman. I've been working on her for 4 months. She had funding things. She just raised a couple $1 million and literally closed it on Friday. Had plannings. Today was her first meeting. She's like, Mike, this is great. I'm so glad we've been texting over the past few months. Thanks for being flexible when I had to reschedule and say, hey, let's wait. And yeah, I was very patient. And in the meeting today, she literally said, hey, can you send me an invoice? And I was like, an invoice for what? Like your time, man. You've been helping me for all these months. We haven't paid you. And I don't typically bill people for my time. I'm selling and then you hire somebody, we'll make some money there. And I was like, oh, what do you think sounds fair? And she's like, oh no, what's your hourly rate? $250. And she's like, all right, let's call it 5 hours. Like send me an invoice for $1,250. Okay. And that's partially because we have good text rapport. Also, she just got $2 million and is a good sign she wants to work with us and buy from us.
Yeah.
And there's two threads here that I'll highlight. One is Zig Ziglar said, you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get whatever they want in life. And so
Love that quote.
love it. Zig is like a role model for me on many levels, including as a parent. And so and I'll also highlight like you were born to win, but in order to win, you have to plan to win and prepare to win so you can show up and expect to win. Like this podcast recording, this is that 10% of expecting to win. I spent 60% of my time planning for the podcast. I spent 30% of the time preparing for the podcast. We had a prep call. We like knew what we were going to talk about. That means you can show up and expect to win. How do you plan and prepare to expect in the different facets of your business and your personal life as well? And the other thing that I wanted to share was a Joe Polish quote that if you add enough value on the front end, the value will show up on the back end. The math takes care of itself. And just add value. Eventually people are like, you've added so much value. Like, how do I pay you money? I'm like, funny you should say that. I do have fractional executives. I also do hourly consulting or CEO coaching. So that's a good way to build your reputation in the market with people who may or may not be your customers. You just go sprinkling value or sprinkling dad jokes everywhere you go. Good things will happen.
I'm amazed at how well that works and just adding value or giving first. And there's some that would say, if I give away too much value, then they're not going to want to work with me. But my experience is the opposite.
Same.
The more you give, the more you really invest in people, and don't worry about the return. Maybe it comes from them, maybe it comes from somebody else, but I think it always comes back and you just give. Ready to dominate your market and skyrocket your revenue? Dive into Small Fish, Big Pond, building a world-class business that swims circles around competitors. This book is packed with powerful marketing and leadership insights guaranteed to transform your business and operate world class. Small Fish Big Pond delivers proven strategies to sharpen your marketing message, deliver unmatched value to your clients, and guide your prospects' buying journey to one inevitable conclusion: that your company is the only solution for them. Inside, you'll find step by step frameworks and time tested growth principles to attract your ideal clients, convert them, and then turn them into your passionate brand ambassadors. Get your copy today in print, ebook, or audio at smallfishbigpond.com or on Amazon. Plus, remember, every book sale supports charity, so dive in and make a difference.
For sure. And somebody told me once, what is it? What is free? How costs money? So you can tell people what to do, but maybe not the nitty gritty details of like how you make the recipe or what your operational audit is. But the fact that, hey, here's what we're going to look at. And like, one of the things we do with companies before we work with them is like a sales scalability scorecard. It's an assessment. There's 6 pillars. We're going to ask you 3 questions in each. And this is going to tell you where you need help in your business, whether or not you hire us to help you fix it or you do it yourself, done with you, done for you. And there's this parable of there's a guy who worked in some manufacturing facility for 40 years. He eventually retired and the giant machine that he worked on was broken. Like, we don't know how to fix it. We got to call Joe. So they bring Joe in and he's there for 5 minutes. He listens to it and he draws a circle on the machine and says, hit this thing with a hammer 3 times. That'll fix it. Lo and behold, they do it and it fixes. And they go, send me an invoice. And he sends him an invoice for $50,000. And the CEO's like, what? This is outrageous. How can you charge $50,000? You were here for 5 minutes. I need an itemized invoice. And the guy goes, okay, sends it back. $1, drawing a circle. $49,999. Having the expertise to know where to draw the circle. Again, just that was a little playful on like the value of expertise there. The gist of it
Sure.
being, you know, add value wherever you go, and you will eventually get paid handsomely for it. And it may not be from that
Without a
person,
doubt.
but it might be from their college roommate that they refer you to. Which there's an anecdote here that in my sunglass days, we did a deal with an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback who may speak on TV on a weekly basis calling games. And the way that I got introduced to him was I pitched to an angel investor group in DC, and I honestly did not do a great job. But one of the guys there took a liking to me. He liked the energy. They ultimately didn't invest, but he said, "Hey, I went to Georgetown. You went to Georgetown. My college roommate is a professional athlete agent. I think your sunglass company would be great if you got some athletes wearing the shades. You can figure all this stuff out." Introduced me to this guy, negotiated a deal, did this deal. I had no idea that this like angel investor who was in like international supply chain work got drunk for 4 years in college with somebody who now represents professional athletes, and was able to make that connection. So I call it the college roommate referral, where like you have
Yeah,
no idea like who my five buddies were that we had quite a bit of fun up at Boston College that could connect people with if they would be helpful.
that's really smart. And you're right. You never know who other people know or what those connections are going to be. And so it's really building relationships and adding value at every interaction. And it comes back over and over again.
Jeff, have you ever heard of the 5x7 rule for building relationships?
No,
So
what is that?
I learned this from a woman in Las Vegas on a rooftop who she executed it with me, and we are friends for life. Mios, if you're listening, love you. And so if you have 5 interactions with somebody in the first 7 weeks from the day you meet them, you will be friends for life. And so there's a
Wow.
clear first interaction of, hey, we met, we went to this event, maybe we connected on LinkedIn. But let's just say I met you at DC Startup Week last week. All right. If I send you a follow up email in a week, hey, it was great to meet you. Great. That's interaction number 2. A week or two later, hey, I saw this really cool article. I thought of you. Hope you like it. Cheers, Mike. That is a deposit in a relationship bank, my friend. Maybe a couple weeks later, for example, I had a trade show booth. The guy next to me, Treat, has a company, Lex IQ, that does legal tech for lawyers. They do some contract AI matching snazzy stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what that means, but I know lawyers. And I said, hey, Treat, great to meet you, man. Send me a forwardable email with your sales marketing blurb. I'll blast it off to a few of my lawyer friends. If and when they opt in, I will connect you with them. Fun fact, one of the people I forwarded to was my college roommate, my random freshman year roommate who I lived with senior year. We had a lot of fun and was like, hey, buddy, check this thing out. Let me know if you want an intro. And I do stuff on the double opt-in intro. It's a polite way to do it. But the gist of it is, if you then maybe have another meeting, you meet for a coffee chat, you're going to a happy hour, an event, you hop on Zoom, you give them a quick phone call, like 5 interactions in 7 weeks, friends for life. And so that is
Wow.
a really powerful way to genuinely and authentically build your network. It's not sleazy. It's not, hey, I'm trying to sell you something. Like I do this in not everybody, because there is a level of meet a bunch of people and you want to prioritize the people who perhaps there's a value alignment. Like I try to
Sure.
gauge, are you a giver? Do you genuinely want to help people? Do you like my jokes? Okay, cool. Let's be friends. And so by doing that, you don't then have to do 5 interactions every 7 weeks. But one of the things I started during COVID was email newsletter called Malloy's Musings. And I was like, yo, we're locked up. I don't know when we're going to see humans again. I got a lot of time on my hands. Let me send you an email in MailChimp with like my favorite articles, my favorite books, slip some jokes in there, a life update. And it was just like a way to stay connected to people. Monthly got harder. It went into quarterly. It is a long form thing, but you can do more than just send Christmas cards once a year. I will recommend Christmas cards as a
Smart.
great way to, if you do a 5x7 with someone, yeah, get their address, spend the $1 or $2 to include them on your Christmas card list. And that's a fun way to at least stay in touch over the long term. Because what's fascinating is like everybody has these circuitous career paths. It's never a linear up and to the right line
Right.
at all.
Right.
And like the biggest client we brought on in the past 3 months, I would say, is an outsourced accounting firm that we're working with. One of the guys who worked there went through the incubator with me 9 years ago with a different startup. He had a few stops.
Wow.
I was program coordinator at that point. Worked my way up to program director. He was the CEO. Closed his first venture while in the program. Worked on a couple others, and then found his way here. Our incubator had a 10-year reunion, Halcyon Homecoming. We got the whole band back together. It was like 100 entrepreneurs and me back in DC. And we caught up, and he was like, "Hey man, like I need help with a fractional sales executive. Let's talk." Lo and behold, we met 3 weeks later. He had already hired a full-time sales hire. So ironically, that didn't work out. But he's like, hey, I also need help with operations and HR and marketing. We've staffed 3 people with them in the past month. And we're talking about a
That's
couple other
fantastic.
things. And it's because of that relationship. And I didn't go to that event being like, oh, I'm going to see this guy and we're definitely going to work together and he's going to pay me. No, like I was like, let me reconnect
Right.
with the people I love that I've been through this 5-month program leading them, and we'll see what happens. And that was one of the best reconnections I would say this year.
That's fantastic. It's such a great story, and just how things work out and where people are connected, and you never would have if you'd gone there looking for that. I'm going to go and I'm going to go to this thing and I'm going to reconnect. I'm going to sell some stuff. And it doesn't work that way.
No,
But if you go in there and you're open, you're giving people and really building those relationships, and especially over time, I love that 5x7.
yeah,
That stuff happens out of that you never would have come across otherwise.
absolutely.
So cool. Achieving consistency with fractional roles, how do companies ensure those fractional talent, whether it be sales or marketing or HR operations, that they deliver reliable results over time?
Great question. I think a big part of it is before the project or engagement even gets started in the scoping phase and making sure that there are clear expectations, because that's where I have seen things come to an issue, is like where we breezed through the SOW phase, the statement of work, and then we're 2 or 3 months in and we're like, how are we actually going to measure success? And like, wait, you expected what deliverable? And you wanted me to make a statue of David, and I thought I was going to do a 3D rendering, and you want the real thing in marble? Oh, this is different. Versus taking, in some cases, an extra day or an extra week or an extra meeting or two, or some Google Doc comments back and forth to make sure that it is clearly articulated.
Yeah.
And then I think in those weekly meetings and weekly reports and the ongoing communication, have those SOW line items as agenda points that you talk about. Like, what do we do this week to get closer to accomplishing number one, number two, number three? And this is something we put in all of our proposals and contracts. As soon as anything happens related or unrelated to this project that may material impact the ability to achieve the desired results, the party will tell the other party. And so that's
Oh, that's good.
if I got in a car accident, if a loved one died, I got to take some time off. If hey, we just are actually selling our company, so I'm going to go to Fiji and you're going to work. Let me know. Whatever those things are, it sets the expectation that there's open communication. We want to know what's on track, mildly off track, or really off track. And in some cases, we'll do like a stoplight, green, yellow, red. Hey, this is green. We're humming along. It's great. Yellow. Let's talk about it. Let's look at the red thing. Let's probably spend the first 15 minutes of this meeting. This is something I'm really worried about because we lost this vendor. This thing broke. Somebody else quit. Whatever the things are, and leaning into what could be a potentially uncomfortable conversation, not avoiding it. That's something that I've certainly learned as well. Like anytime there is bad news to deliver, bottom line up front, don't bury the lead. And I also
Yep.
love the sentence of, hey, Jeff, I just want to go ahead and rip the band aid off. And when you say that, like the hairs on your arm, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. You're braced for it. And now you can deliver the news. And then you can spend the rest of the meeting talking about, okay, how do we triage and problem solve? And I always tell
Right.
people, if you're going to bring me a problem, you better be carrying 3 solution bags with you. And which one do you think I should open up? And that's something I think for all listeners, as you delegate a problem, not even as you delegate things to somebody else or somebody on your team is responsible or accountable, set a culture of expectation that when you present this in a meeting or in an email, you can't just be like, hey, boss, what should we do? It should
Right.
be, let me give you a quick brief, and I'll make a note. There's a phenomenal Inc. article about briefs, and it quotes some things from Amazon, but just like how to structure. Here's the problem. Here's what I've researched. Here are the 3 things I recommend. Here are the 3 options. Here's the one that I recommend and why. Let's now discuss, such that it's an efficient kind of decision making process and not a, I'm lazy. I want you to solve this because I don't know what to do.
Right.
So,
Yeah. You mentioned the importance of metrics and data tracking earlier. What are some metrics that companies should prioritize to ensure the sales team is performing at a high level?
great question. And I've got a great article with some visuals on North Star metrics that I can share with you and the listeners, because ultimately for the business, you want to know what is your North Star metric. And not only do you want to
Yeah.
know, the whole company needs to know, and you've got to preach it Short, simple, repeated. Short, simple, repeated. That's how these ideas stick and propagate through the company culture. So, like for our business and for sales in general, I think either gross revenue or gross profit should be one of the key metrics, if not the North Star metric. For us, our North Star metric is gross profit. We do a lot on gross revenue. We also pay people a lot of money for the work that they're doing as the fractional executives. And so understanding how profitable are the different projects we're on, the different fractionals we're working with. For other companies, it might be if you have an app, is it the monthly, daily active users? Is it how many times are they logging in on a monthly basis? Is it the number of actions they're taking on the platform? It may be if it's a marketplace, like the transaction volume. That can also be something of, and usually if it's a marketplace business, which is something I think a lot about, like there's the supply side and the demand side. One of those is the hard side. You should immediately know
Yeah.
which side it is. And then you should put 80 to 90% of your resources on solving problems for the hard side, because the easy side will work itself out. And so metrics, when you're looking at sales, I think a lot of people talk about CAC and lifetime value, like customer acquisition cost, like how much does it cost to acquire a customer? One metric that is often overlooked is the customer retention cost. And how much are you proactively spending to keep customers, and not
Yep.
just like putting out a fire when they say they're going to quit or go to somebody else, but something that we do in our business, and I love, is a lot of fun and it humanizes us, is that we send anniversary gifts. We send a 3-month anniversary gift,
Oh,
a
that's
six
great.
month, a 12-month. I had a client we're working with this summer. We did our 1-year anniversary, and he's from Israel, and we got on Etsy. And Etsy's great for personalized, thoughtful gifts, by the way. A 3D printed map of Israel. It was less than $100. We sent it to him. He took a selfie with it, texted me, because remember, we text with our clients, and said, "Happy anniversary. Love the first year anniversary gift. Can't wait to get the second anniversary gift."
That's awesome.
My man, he pays us $7,500 a month for another year. That's about $100,000 for a $100 gift. So
Yep.
thinking about that thoughtfulness, I hinted earlier on like Christmas cards. We've also started sending out. We did like happy summer cards. We did happy Halloween cards. Jeff, if I don't have your mailing address, I'll get it afterwards. We'll get you on our Thanksgiving card, our Christmas card. And these are fun things that I am literally creating with markers and watercolors and crayons with my son, and then just mailing them
Oh, that's
out.
great.
And we've started putting a couple of dad jokes on the back. And it's not a sales poster. I'm not selling you anything. Again, this is a drop in the relationship bank. Hey, we care about
Yeah.
you. And I was talking to Tina, my chief of staff, about it the other day. I was like, are we going to spend hundreds and eventually thousands of dollars on these every month? Yes.
I
And
hope. Yeah.
like the more we put here, if one person then remembers we exist and is, oh yeah, you should talk to my buddy Mike about this thing, it works itself out. And it's, again, just like, how can you genuinely and authentically put deposits in that relationship bank? Not saying, hey, I want to open the piggy bank tomorrow. I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm moving to a new house. I need you to carry my furniture up. No, it's just, hey, I like you. And here's a little reminder, I'm thinking about you. Goes a long way. One other habit I'll throw out for folks too on their relationship building is something called a scroll back text. So as you're listening to this, you're probably on your phone. Open up your text messages, take your thumb, swipe up 3 or 4 times, let it stop, see somebody there, and then send them a text message. And just say,
Oh, that's great.
hey, just thinking about you. Hope you and the family are doing well. You can say something else if you want, but it can be very generic. If you do more than one on that group, great, go for it. Just do one a day. You'd be amazed at how it will fill you up on a social emotional level, because these aren't sales text messages. These are just like people in your life that you swipe up a few times. It's been a few weeks, months since I've talked to these people.
Yeah.
Some reply, some don't. I do it when I'm like food shopping. I usually do it before bed, because if I haven't done it earlier in the day, I'm like, oh, I should send one scroll back text. And it's, yeah, conversations get resparked. Maybe you catch up, maybe you don't. If you do it earlier in the day, somebody responds, you'd be like, hey, you got 15 minutes later today to hop on a quick call. Just, hey, how's life going? Like the kid's taking a nap, I'm taking the dog for a walk, whatever. I'm in the car to go. It's fine. I have great conversations catching up with people when I'm driving to Home Goods to return stuff that my wife bought that we don't need. I've had a couple of those in the past couple of months where I'm like, it's been great to catch up with Ari and Dustin. So, yeah.
That's brilliant. I think it's so important to do that, especially as we're in a world now where there's so much more AI and fake personalization
Yeah.
and just kind of artificial relationships, social media, and it's not real. The more we can do to really connect and just be real and build authentic relationships, the better off will do as humans, but also in business.
Absolutely. I love it.
So good. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Malloy Industries online?
Absolutely. You can visit us at malloyindustries.com/pod, POD for podcast. We'll have some links and resources there. Just to spell it out, my last name is Malloy, Malloy, Industries, Industries.com/pod. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn, Mike Malloy, I think, /MW Malloy. And yeah, feel free to email me even if you want. It's Mike at malloyindustries.com. I'm a pretty chill guy. Would be happy to follow up if there are things we talked about here, things you need help with. And we recorded this at 4:30 on a Wednesday. Every Wednesday from 4 to 4:30, I have an entrepreneur roundtable where entrepreneurs can come, hop on Zoom with me, pick my brain. It is free. We do it every week. You can sign up on our website for Entrepreneur Roundtable. We had 5 founders today. We're just sharing ideas, resources. It's like a lightning round office hours, both a one-to-many pick Mike's brain, because as a business owner and a dad of a 2.5-year-old, I don't have a ton of time for meetings, but I want to, again, share resources, help people. And it's also cool when we can create a space where other entrepreneurs are helping each other and be like, oh, have you looked here for this thing? This is another good way to think about it.
Very cool. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes, as well as the meeting templates. Super helpful. And the sales, what was it? The sales scorecard.
Yeah, the sales scorecard. And I have to ask maybe a joke or two on the way out here.
Of course.
How do you find Will Smith in the snow?
I look for the Fresh Prince.
Nailed it. I love it. All right, I got a corollary. What is a snowman's favorite type of cake?
I don't know what.
Well, it doesn't matter. They all smell like carrot cake.
So good. So it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Mike, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. Hey, how about that 5x7 rule? Is that just awesome or what? I've started using it and it's a total game changer. I used it at the last event and have really started building some great connections. You can learn more about Mike at malloyindustries.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership. We have full episodes, video shorts, reels, outtakes, trainings, all sorts of things on there for you. Thought leaders, share this episode with someone you want to build a connection with. Maybe it can be one of your 5s. It's an easy way to connect and add value, isn't it? Yeah, just share the episode. Everyone who shares this week gets a Dad Joke Generator 3000. Just press the button and out comes a fresh, grown-worthy zinger. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts. Or when someone says, I'm cold, boom, go stand in the corner because it's always 90 degrees. Warning though, may cause uncontrollable eye rolls. What if AI could revolutionize how you market your business? Join us next Tuesday as Hikari Senju, founder of OmniKey, explores how generative AI is transforming advertising, unlocking data-driven creativity, and helping brands scale their engagement like never before. What if you could automate, delegate, and eliminate inefficiencies to scale your business effortlessly? Join us next Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series as Will Christensen, founder of Entrepreneur's Apprentice, reveals the secrets to leveraging automation, building accountability systems, and transforming the future of work. I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSFuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.